afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast. Lehr with me, a host, Imperial Dane, Master of Instruction, covering here today the M26 Pershing heavy tank, available here from the American Heavy Cavalry Company for 600 manpower and 230 fuel. It is the slightly cheaper of all the heavy tanks, sort of at least late game heavy tanks available in the game. Only cheaper in sense is probably the KV-1, KV-8 and the Churchill tanks. Of course, they don't quite have the same gun in terms of stats, so of course it is a bit different from most other heavy tanks. It's basically like a Panther in most senses. It's got about the same health, about the same armour. It does have a much better gun, which, the turret turns faster, it's more accurate on the move, which rather means in that sense it's already got several more advantages over the Panther, which also makes it a greater flanker. It's got better anti-infantry, and it's also got access here to the fire HVAP round, which allows it to basically fire through terrain. And I believe also fires actually a much more potent round, which does even more damage, has higher penetration than normal rounds, and I think also more splash damage. I might be wrong there, but either way, that means it's actually a pretty potent ability in itself. Of course, it's also expensive, but in theory, you could knock out an anti-tank gun through the terrain and then sort of drive in. But it also means, of course, it's not the sort of tank you really want to slug it out with your opponent. If you try to do that, you're going to have a bad time. And of course, there's also a slight difference here between it and every other single American tank. You might have noticed that it's got no crew in it. Essentially, it's got a crew, but it can't pop in and out, which means essentially you can't trade veterancy with other units, though most American players don't do it. But more importantly, it can't self-repair, which means, as the Americans, you actually need someone to repair the Pershing. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself, a big piece of scrap, which rather makes it a bit more unique there to the Americans in that sense. Veterancy-wise, it also ends up it gets Veteran 1 improved acceleration, Veteran 2 sort of more mobility, can throw grenades about, which has a bit then common except has Veteran 3 for that, and Veteran 3, and of course just makes it more accurate, has as far as shooting range. It has to go upgrades, it can't add a heavy machine gun like, say, other heavier tanks, for example, the Tiger, the IS-2 and such. It's got no upgrades in that sense either. Of course, it does have something else. It has the combined arms ability and can work together with, which means if infantry near it, it actually gains more line of sight and range. And of course, that's also important compared to, say, the Tiger, King Tigers and so on. It's actually got more range right off the bat. Again, same range as the Panther. In that sense, the Pershing does possess a lot of advantage. But again, it very much means you don't want to use the Pershing there to slug it out with other heavy tanks and any other armor. You want to use its speed and it's sort of fast, turret rotation, sort of basically flank with it. It's much more of a sort of flanking heavy tank in that sense. It fits more into the American play style of not, just sort of relying on brute force, or not absorbing a lot of fire, that sort of brute force, and more so, trying to use speed and firepower against your opponent. And that's rather what the Pershing is built out about. So if you just, for example, try to slug it out with a Tiger, you're going to lose. If you try to outflank a Tiger, you're probably going to win, because the Tiger simply won't be able to keep up with your Pershing, which on the other hand can more or less keep the gun pointed at it at all times while flanking. Again, that's really what makes the Pershing so much stronger. It also probably, I think, actually veterans you up faster, which is also a bit of an advantage compared to other tanks. So in that sense, again, the Pershing has an advantage. Again, it does also have distinct disadvantages, which again largely mean it doesn't have a lot of health, so again, prolonged engagements will be a problem for the Pershing. Again, you want to use its speed, its high sort of accuracy, rotation, and so on, to really do a lot of damage, because again, it's also probably one of the most accurate heavy tanks in the game as well. So it does again have advantages, but it very much, can't, take up a lot of damage. It's not going to be, say, your spearhead when you're charging straight into the enemy lines, not unless you're laying down a lot of smoke. It simply put can't absorb the fire. So that's very important there to keep in mind with the Pershing. Very important, and again, you need someone to help repair it, otherwise again the Pershing is going to be in trouble. Those are sort of very important details there about the Pershing. But if you can keep those things in mind, you will generally find the Pershing to, of course, be a reliable heavy tank that does alright. But again, if you try to play it like a Tiger or a King Tiger, you are, of course, going to get sorely disappointed. On the other hand, if you've played like a really great flanker, in which case it's probably one of the best in the game, you'll get pretty well rewarded, particularly again as a gains veteran. He just becomes meaner. He can drive around anti-tank guns easily, drop grenades on them, drop grenades and infantry, just fire away, just murder away. And again, that's really the strength there of the Pershing. It's the fastest, and again, in some sense, the best heavy tank for those kinds of things. But again, don't try to slug it out, or you will get disappointed. Of course, you can, try to use, combined arms, or say the smoke there with it, in which case, again, it gets a lot more potent. So I think that rather really covers it for the Pershing. Again, don't try to slug it out. If you do, you will lose. And again, also perhaps try to keep the flanks a bit covered. Try to flank, keep moving, keep shooting, and so on, and try to use the HVAP round. And of course, for the Germans, you just want to sort of focus it down as quickly as possible. Target weak point with that, and whatever, just stop it quickly. So I think that rather covers it, really. Thank you all for joining in. Hopefully this has been an educator for those who want to sort of fight better with it and fight against it. And so, yeah, that's it really. Hope to see you all another time for another Propagandacast. Of course, just another regular Propagandacast episode. So, bye everybody. Cheers.